Hi, welcome to Drinking from the Fire Hose. My name is Roger Wilcox and I'm going to be co-hosting the series of 10-minute video snippets which are aimed at equipping managers to improve their team's performance. In this video snippet, my co-host Murray and I are going to be talking about engaging managers and how they get the best performance and results from their team. We're going to share some interesting real-life anecdotes from our own experience and give you some practical tips on how to improve your team's performance. We'll end each video with an activation, enabling you to immediately put into practice what you've heard. So now over to Murray.
Hey Roger, how are you doing? It's nice to be co-hosting this with you as well. So yeah, as you say, this first one is on engaging managers. So I think what we'll do is just dive straight into, so what's the goal? Why are we trying to do this? So the goal is obviously to develop leaders to get the best performance and results from their team. I think we've probably all worked in situations where you've had good and bad managers, and it's always far more engaging, and you're probably far more willing to up your performance levels if you've got a good engaged manager. Certainly is my experience over the years. I've had good and bad, and it definitely, even if it's subconsciously, I think it absolutely affects your performance level. Certainly I found in the past I will always go that extra mile for a manager I've got a good connection with and I've got that rapport with. If I don't have that, then yeah, I probably, not necessarily intentionally, but I probably drag my heels a little bit and don't quite give the 110% I ought to be doing.
Yeah.
And I guess some of the other reasons for doing that, you obviously want the more performance. And it's also, I think, one of the issues is churn as well. I think it's one of your quotes, Rogers, that people join organizations, but they leave managers.
Yeah.
And I guess if you don't have that relationship, that link necessarily with your manager, you're more likely to either move team or move organization. So yeah, and that engagement permeates. We're trying to get people engaged and doing improvements, working better. So yeah, that really ought to come from your manager.
Yeah. So how do you assess current performance? How should a manager actually assess their current performance at the moment? That's one of the key questions you need to ask, because that'll help you decide where you are now and how you can improve. So the first thing I'd say is, how much time do you actually spend coaching your team? How much time do you spend giving and receiving feedback and actually using a coaching style to improve your team members' performance? It's really important during this time to connect with your team and to get to know them as well. One of the things I ask is, how do you formally assess your team, their work? It's really important to think about that. Do you have a technique to do that? How would your team describe you? That's a critical question. It's kind of interesting to think about yourself as an engaging manager. What would your team say about you? Finally, think about things like your last employee engagement feedback. What scores did you get? What categories were they in? Do people say that they know what's expected of them in their work? Do their opinions count? All of those are indicators about how good you are at engaging other people. And I know Murray's got a good example here that he'll share with you.
I've probably got a couple of quick ones actually, Roger, just as you're talking there. I think for me, one of the biggest lessons about coaching is it's something that takes a bit of practice. You've got to keep on doing it, because it can sometimes feel a little bit unnatural, both for you and for the people you're coaching. And I know from one of the teams I used to lead, I actually did a lot of coaching. I would like to think I spent a lot of time coaching them. So that maybe answers one of your questions for me. But I know when I started doing that, they were a little bit uncomfortable. There was a little bit of, whoa, why are we having this conversation? And they got used to it. But it's maybe just an acceptance that it takes a little bit of time for everybody to get comfortable with a coaching conversation.
Yeah.
And I guess my second one is, it ought to be two ways. I was very lucky to have a senior manager at a previous organization who was happy to coach me, because I asked him for a little bit of help. And he said, yeah, no problem. I'm more than happy to coach you, but it's a two-way process.
Yeah.
I also want you to coach me, which was utterly terrifying, the thought of me coaching this very senior ops manager. But actually, it was also very powerful. So it built, a real sort of bond of trust and sort of mutual respect when you were having those conversations. So I guess that's also key, is it's a two-way conversation when you're doing the coaching, and you ought to be open to that as well. Okay, so the next part is really about how to achieve the goal. What are some of the practical steps involved in that? So I'll go through a couple and then I'll hand back over to Roger again. So I guess for me, one of the simple ones is actually, go see and assess. Go out and have the conversations, go and meet the people, go and see what's happening and to what standard, what degree. Try and be familiar with it. A lesson from previous engagements is don't just go to the nice, easy places. Go and speak to some of the difficult teams or some of the difficult environments. Make it very inclusive. So that go see and assess should cover everything. And I guess linked to that for me is a second piece on message messenger environment. And that's really about being sympathetic to who you're talking to and who you're trying to engage. So the message may change depending on the level of people in the organization you're talking to, or whether they're offshore, onshore, in an office, wherever they are. So I guess just be cognizant of the message may have to change for different audiences. And likewise, the messenger, so really hopefully it's always you that's giving the message, but there's some learning from past organizations that, for example, the CEO is not always the best messenger when you're dealing with the frontline guys. So where possible, again, if it's not you and you're trying to get a message across or you're trying to get some information on what's going on, somebody with local respect and credibility is massively valuable in there. So yeah, use what you've got at your disposal. And the final one's environment. Again, and this is again probably going back to you going out and having conversations. Have the conversation somewhere that the people you're talking to are comfortable. So dragging them into the boardroom may not necessarily make them very comfortable or very receptive. More likely, if you can go to their working environment, their control room, their tea shack, whatever, far more likely to have a receptive audience. Now, given that's also a challenge in these current times when we're doing more and more Zoom chats, and that may be around timing and around how you set things up. But yeah, message and messenger environment, really key. So back to you, Roger, for some examples.
Okay, thanks, Murray. What I'd say is we're currently running tight on our 10 minutes. We've got 2 minutes left. So what I'd say is go to our longer video, which we'll put a link in the bottom section to the other elements. We're going to talk through in that video on conducting leadership structured workplace assessments. Encouraging the heart, which is really important, is about how you engage people and how you get the best from them by encouraging them, genuinely motivating them. Connecting people to the vision, which is an important element of how do you take what people are doing now, connect them to the vision of your team or your business, and also coaching, how you give and receive feedback. We'll also in that video talk about observable behaviors and what you should be seeing, feeling, and hearing. So what I'd like to do now is focus on our activation. There's 2 activations I'd like you to specifically do to improve your performance and that of your team. The first one is allocate some time to conduct a go, see, and assess. Like Murray said, he's given a good example there. So be intentional, pick a time, pick someone to do it, and go and do it. And let us know, what did you learn? And the second one is identify a practice that your team routinely conduct and conduct a leadership site workplace assessment. Go and try it and let us know how it goes. So over to you, Murray, for a quick wrap up.
Okay, so yeah, I think the key message, Roger, is go and do it. There's probably an acceptance there that it's not always going to be perfect. And I think we've also experienced in the past when you try and kick some of this stuff off for the first time, especially coaching conversations, how you actually initiate it can be quite frightening. So again, if you're having a little bit of trouble about how would I start this off, get in touch, give us a shout, and we can share some examples. We can, I think we've described it before as a virtual hug. We can give you a little bit of coaching and advice as well to help you go and do that. So yeah, key thing, go and do it.